Applejack, Ember, A True Love by Sweet Apple. Like every morning at Sweet Apple Acres, Applejack was up before the sunrise. She was first eating her breakfast and even starting to feed the animals. Around when the sun had risen on the sky, the rest of the family had just woken up after she had just fed the animals and taken care of the chores of her own. The family came out, and they saw that Applejack was already full at work. Big Mac was just surprised and even a bit worried. Why is she up so early? Why doesn't she go up like the others? But Applejack had always said, up early, done work first, makes you happy. And Big Mac, he had nothing to argument with that. But he has to tell her to calm down. I mean, how much work would she do? She overwhelmed her so much then about her. She overworked so well. She put her body limit to the limit. Even her friends had at some points said to her, "Don't overwork. Don't push her to limit." Even Applejack had mentioned that once. Well, if you don't push your limits, how do you know how much you can push? And even Rainbow Dash had just said, "AJ, you can't push your limit too fast. Even I don't." Well, Cube, you are one of Wonderballs, so why wouldn't you? And that took as a surprise to Rainbow, but her answer were, "Yes, I might push myself as to the limit, but I don't push beyond the limit. I know that. I did it once and I ended up in hospital for weeks. Do you think I would do that same thing again? How would you do it if you were like with me? Would you do it?" And Applejack had just said, "Honestly, maybe." That surprised Rainbow. Even her friends had said to her, "Never push to your physical limit." But one day, it happened. Applejack had been up around only 3 a.m. Normally she was up 5 a.m. But this time she had only slept for about nearly 5 hours. Normally she sleeps maybe from 8 to 10 hours, but 5, that was beyond than she normally do. She woke up, she skipped her breakfast, only took a glass of apple juice, and went out for work. She shouldn't have done it. Her brother had often said, "Don't skip breakfast. That is the most important meal of the day. That gives you the most energy in the morning that you can do all the work." But this time, Applejack didn't listen. She fed the animals without any problem. She started packing some apples at some further away from the orchards. But then, when she did, a big branch of the tree fell right on her back. She was too tired to remove it. Even she normally is strong enough to remove it herself. But this time she had skipped breakfast and even had much to sleep. She was still tired. She started to scream for help, but she was too tired to hear any help. It took almost to 9 a.m. when the rest of the family was waking up and had already eaten their breakfast and started to do their chores. They noticed that Applejack wasn't even back at home yet. So Apple Bloom went to the orphanage to start her part of her chores. And then she was terrified. Seeing Applejack laying on the ground like that. She immediately runs back to the farm to get Big Mac. And Big Mac listens and he's terrified. and he runs back with her, and they both grabbed Applejack and put it on his back, and he ran all the way to the hospital. Luckily for Applejack, it was nothing serious, but this time the doctor had to give her order. As you said, Applejack, you shouldn't have pushed your limit to this time. If you had, it could have got much worse. But luckily for this time, it was not a serious injury. But now you had to be bed rest for at least a couple of days to recover. But I can't, I have the rodeo show in a couple of weeks. I said bed rest, Applejack, nothing else. If you try to make anything exercise, it will only make the things worse. And then Applejack realized she couldn't do anything. So after she came back, Big Mac and Apple Bloom told Granny Smith just happened. And Granny Smith, she wasn't even happy with this. She scolded Applejack, told her the same thing as the doctor did, and also reminded her every time she wakes up, eat her breakfast. Take it easy when you do your chores. Don't push your limit. And during the time when Applejack was in bed for a couple of days, she had most of her books to read, but she often walks down to ask if she could help. But her parents, her grandmother, and her siblings always said, "No, Applejack, you know what the doctor said." And she understood. She couldn't even argue with it. So after nearly a week, she was back to recover, but this time she had to follow the doctor's orders. Even Applejack had either Big Mac or Apple Bloom nearby to see if she did push to her limit again. At first she was annoyed that they were around her like watchdogs. But she understood she couldn't done that again because she remembered what the doctor said. Luckily this was only a minor injuries and not serious enough. And even at the time that Applejack decided to take a few days off from work from her shorts, so her family took care of it. And during the same time in Dragonlance, for Dragon Lord Ember, she had been feeling a bit overwhelmed her duties as a Dragon Lord, and even she often had to inspect all the dragon borders, all the new dragon settlements, all the peaceful trading between the ponykind and dragons. But at the same time, she wants to have some fun. She tries to sneak away from her duties to have some fun with other dragons, but some of her advisors always found her and told her she couldn't do this. She had to be a better role model for the people, for the dragons. But she said, if I had to be sitting on the throne all day long, I'd be petrified as a stone. And you must have let me have some fun as a one. And the advisor said to her, you can have fun, but only after you have finished your duties, Dragon Lord. And one day, Amber received a message from Twilight for an invitation. But this was not diplomatic or something else. It's just she had actually wrote a letter to Twilight to see that said that she was feeling a bit overworked and she needed a break. And she needed some time. And of course, Twilight invited her to the castle for at least a week. And she did came. She had put Garble and her advisors at the role acting as Dragon Lord while she comes back. At the Ponyville, when Amber came there, she met Applejack. And Applejack, they were actually good friends by now. But at the same time, Applejack had feeling a bit different about in the presence of Amber. Even Amber had felt the same thing. She actually had a small diva crush on Applejack because she thinks that she's strong, adorable, and even most honest of ponies. So during the time when she was there, she even spent a lot more time with Applejack or even Twilight, but most of the time with Applejack. Twilight and her dear friends weren't surprised because Applejack and even Amber came quite get along well together. They were getting along well. They had almost the same, almost the same interest. Compete, be strong, be honest, but at the same time to relax. For lately that Applejack after her injuries, she has to take it easy sometimes. Even if that she didn't want to do, but she realized it must be done to save your energy, to let the body heal from any of her excitements, all of their tired out. Exhaustion could be very dangerous. Consuming so much energy from doing your chores can be dangerous. But during the time Applejack and Amber spent together, they were actually almost inseparable. Even Applejack had invited Amber to stay at the farm for a few nights so they could spend more time, just getting to know each other better. But soon it started getting some talking about between their friends. Applejack had mentioned that to Rainbow and Fluttershy that she had a crush on Amber. And even Twilight had been told by Amber that she had a crush on Applejack. But she was still not aware how to express her feelings for a pony. Since pony and dragons emit their feelings in different ways. So Applejack expressed her feelings in a pony way, and even Amber tried both in pony and dragon way. And after days much talking and discussion and revealed their true feelings for each other, Applejack and Amber became a couple. They were no problem to announce that to their other ponies or dragons about this. They actually enjoyed each other's company. Even at first, her advisors thought this could be a very bad idea, since she would be much busy at the Dragonlands as a Dragon Lord. But they saw her very happy when she was back. She did her work without any problems, without any negative comments. She just did all her work without a problem. Even her father, Torch, had a little bit very hard to believe that his own daughter was together with a pony, but he was not against the entire idea. He was just surprised. But the most he had thought to maybe that Garble would end up with Amber. But Garble had already found his true mate, soulmate, on one of the dragons. So, Torch announced that he accepts his daughter's relationship, and he has told his daughter that her mother would be proud to see that she is acting as a good dragon lord, maintaining peace between the pony kind and the dragons, and also to have found her true love. But do what happens sometimes after they've been together for nearly 2 years, something did happen. One day when Applejack was going to visit the Dragonlands, first she had to take the train, but at some point there she had to walk for the rest of the way. There was some problems along the tracks, and there were other trains that could take the further way. But on the way, she was kidnapped by a group of dragons. This dragons group was opposing the kind of friendship with dragons. They were against the entire idea for ponies to be friends with dragons. They kidnapped Amber's girlfriend in order to make her decide either have her Applejack safe or step down as the Dragon Lord and put someone else on the throne, and that could be one of them. After that, Applejack's friends and family found out about this from Amber. They all was furious, but at the same time surprised and mostly shocked. None of them could ever believe that any pony could be kidnapped by a group of dragons. But according to a witness at the time, saw there was at least 4 dragons. They managed to knock out Applejack before she could manage to escape. But the only said the witness said or the direction they left was northeast. But nothing else could be found. Dragons from the Drylands new formed police force. They searched in the area around northeast, northwest, even south. Nothing. It was like the dragons were gone, middle of nowhere. But it turns out they had only gone underground. But they managed to be found much later, and the dragons were punished. They were sent to a school in Dragonlands to say accept friendship. At first they were having very much trouble to accept it, but they realized all their problems was wrong, and they was released in the public to be good citizens. How did Applejack react all of this after this her capture and she was released and found? She was not actually afraid. She knew that Amber would find her, and she did. And shortly after this event, Applejack actually proposed to Amber. Amber had no idea, but she accepted the proposal and said yes. And this was going to be the biggest wedding in the year. They decided to hold the entire wedding in candlelight. Spike was open to be chosen to be the best man, and even Pinkie Pie to be the ring bearer, and as for Rainbow to be Amber's bridesmaid. And they had the most amazing wedding. Applejack was so happy to be with Amber for the rest of her life. They later celebrate the honeymoon at one of the local Dragon Lord's personal favorite places. And it was most amazing. They saw this sunset during one of those small volcanoes in the area, and it was just amazing. Even Applejack never had experienced this much love for Amber. And Amber, she had never experienced this much love for any pony or any other creature. She was deeply in love with Applejack. How much more would she could ask for a better wife? And only 4 years later, Applejack and Amber have been talking about starting a family. First they talked about it and decided to start a family. And one day, Amber announced to Applejack that she was having a baby. They had the help from Twilight from this, combining some of the dragon's DNA with Applejack's to make this even possible. And then one day, they also found out they want to have a boy. But then the day came. Amber laid 2 eggs rather from 1. And both of them was very surprised. They always thought to have at least 1, but they had 2. And then a few months later, the both egg hatched. The first they named Golden Apple Sparks. Golden Apple Sparks was very more curious about both knowing his parents' origins. Even as when Amber still lived in Dragonlands, he spent some time there with his brother, Apple Smoke, and even with in Ponyville. At first he was very curious and felt outside, since he was and his brother were the only dragon pony hybrid in existence. But after some time, they both had great number of friends, and Golden Apple Sparks was actually chosen to be the next in line to be the Dragon Lord. His brother didn't want to be a Dragon Lord. He wanted to be something else. Golden Apple Sparks. He actually later became married and had two daughters of his own. And he saw his uncle, Big Macintosh, as a father figure. And that made him very proud, because they both spent a lot of time even with Apple Smoke. Apple Smoke was more different from his brother. He was more serious, he was more brave, but he always remained loyal to his friends and his family. Always make sure they all be safe. But he has a great sense of humor. Telling jokes to his friends and families made them all laugh, but he discovered he was good at something else: singing. He was the first dragon to be known as to be singing. There have been a few dragons in the history that has been singing. Had to be great singing, but not as much they continued with. But Apple Smoke, he'd continue his talent to perform with the ponytones and even travel across Equestria to sing for others. And he became the first known the dragon singer. But he preferred to be singing only for entertainment, not to become famous. But he became famous, but not as he wanted to be popularity. All the he performed as concerts and even for charity to help others. At some point, he actually became married to a female dragon, and they had two sons and one daughter of their own. And that's how Amber, Applejack, and the true love, I got a family. The end.